like, hey, like Ryan Reynolds came from here, and was it Ryan Reynolds? Yeah, Ryan Reynolds came from here. Seth Rogen came from here. Michael Bublé. Steve Nash came from BC. Like, there's a lot of excellence that has started right here in this city. What's going on, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Tunji's podcast. I'm your host, Tunji Taylor Lewis. Start of another week, people. Let's get after it. Let's go. Let's do all that fun stuff that we hear in our motivational podcast in the morning. Whatever you hear in the mornings or whatever Instagram post you see in the mornings before you start your week, do all that shit. Y'all, today I want to talk about something that I've been feeling over the past little while, and as time goes on, as time moves on, it definitely feels stronger and stronger inside of me. I'm gonna start it with a little story. So a couple weekends ago, I went out with my girl to go see a music show that my friend was in. Shout out to Nathan Stein and the whole Stein family and the whole McKelkey family. Shay, all you people, love all you guys. Went out to go see my buddy perform, and it was in the city that I grew up in for about more than half my life. Port Coquitlam BC. It's the place that I grew up in from when I was 10 years old till I was about 23. Went to middle school there, went to high school there, spent a lot of time in that city during those years. And, other than the times that I went to university in another city in BC, I spent a lot of my years growing up in that city. And I hadn't been there in a long time outside of my aunt's house. I hadn't really gone in any place around the city outside of my aunt and uncle's house. They still live out there. And I was there, and I was in that park, and I was having fun, hanging out with my friends' families and stuff like that, and taking photos with Sade. But it was just sort of a weird feeling where I'd grown up there for a lot of years of my life, but I didn't feel like I belonged there. It didn't feel like home necessarily. The city didn't feel like home. Obviously when I was living with my family at the time, that felt like home. In my aunt and uncle's house, right next door to us, that felt like home. But the city doesn't feel like home. And it's not just that city, Port Coquitlam, it's also this city that I currently live in, Vancouver. And it's just crazy to think because this is, the city that I've been around, my entire life. I've always lived in this area. And you think that if you grow up in a place your whole life, you feel like you would identify with the people, you would identify with the culture. And, I just don't feel that way. I don't feel like I belong in this city. And, it's interesting too because I've always had a sense since I was younger that I was gonna move to cities in the States that were more entertainment centric, whether that's in LA or New York or Chicago or Houston or New Orleans or one of those cool cities, down south. That was always a dream or aspiration I had, but I don't necessarily remember that being attached to feeling like I had to get out of Vancouver per se. I think at that time I still had a passion for Vancouver. I still had a passion for, people in Vancouver realizing our potential, realizing that, we have a lot of talent, we can have our own entertainment hub in this city, much like, Drake made the people of Toronto realize that, Toronto has their own stuff going on. They have their own culture going on. I think I was just really passionate at that time about getting Vancouver to realize hey, Ryan Reynolds came from here, and was it Ryan Reynolds? Yeah, Ryan Reynolds came from here. Seth Rogen came from here. Michael Bublé. Steve Nash came from BC. There's a lot of excellence that has started right here in this city. There's a lot of celebrities that come through here to film, their TV shows and movies and stuff like that. There's no reason why we can't pull all of our resources and pull the stuff that we already have, and market ourselves as and more importantly, feel about ourselves as better than we currently feel about ourselves now. And I guess just going through the years and being as motivated as I am, and being as ambitious as I am, and basically, you know, even the fact that I'm doing a podcast by myself is interesting, because like it was just sort of a thing that I felt like I had to do, for the simple reason that I know that I can depend on me to be consistent with it, put content out every day, not have to go back and forth, not have to organize people, and that's just definitely not the makeup of this city. It's just not the makeup of the city. Like, I think as far as thinking highly of ourselves and thinking of ourselves as going to the absolute next level, and just being absolutely, audacious with the dreams and aspirations that we have. Definitely, certainly other cities have that. Definitely, that's part of New York culture. That's certainly part of Hollywood culture. That's certainly part of culture down in the States. But as far as in here in Vancouver, that's just not the case. And like, I definitely feel like I'm by myself in that respect, as far as being, like just a really, really a person who really, really works hard and puts his all into his craft and tries to make the best possible thing happen. There's not a lot of people that I can relate to in this city in that respect, which is fine. That's cool. And the other thing about it too is just like my Instagram. When you have a business account, you can like look at your insight and you can see your top cities, like the most. I don't know how to explain it. The most amount of followers you have in each city, basically, like your top cities, like which cities like follow you the most. And my top city is New York. It used to be Vancouver, because that's just where the place I was from. For a while, it was Vancouver. It was always ahead of any American city. And like 4% of my following comes from New York. 3% of my following comes from Houston. I'm pretty sure another 3% comes from Chicago. And then 3% comes from Vancouver. And then I think 1 or 2% comes from Los Angeles. And that's just crazy to look at. That's crazy. And then furthermore, the United States, people from the United States is 70% of my following. And then Canada is like 13 or 20 or something way smaller. And even with me putting my content out and building a following for myself, I remember when I first started putting out my lip sync videos that I was doing a lot of hashtags that were Vancouver centric, because I wanted to build an audience here, but I ended up building an audience down south, right? And at first I never looked at it as like feeling like my city was rejecting me or anything like that, or my city wasn't into what I was doing. Like I kind of like took it for what it was, and I was just happy to be building a following. But I think it's just like the combination of like the real life stats in combination with just the way I've just genuinely been feeling, and just like feeling tired of trying to collaborate with people here and trying to get stuff done here. The combination of those two things, I think, has kind of just made me feel like, man, like I don't really feel like I belong. And it's not in like a real depressing way or anything like that. It's not in a way that makes me feel sad. It's just in a way that I look around and I'm just like, I feel like I need to like explore and like see what else is out there, and because there has to be a place where I can just like walk around and feel like, even if I'm not speaking to everybody, that I can relate to everybody in some way. That could mean just being around more black people, because there's not really a black community out here, so that could be one fix to it. But more so than that, man, I think it's just, for me, it's just like I would love to be immediately around more people with just like a really, ambitious and focused mindset, and just like, be around people who, who want to, who, don't make any excuses, and then just like strive to be the best version of themselves every day. And I'm not saying I'm perfect in that respect, but like, it's just like the striving, it's the ambition, it's just like the wanting to fulfill your absolute best potential And you know, I don't think that's the case in Vancouver. I'm just gonna be honest. Like I love my city, love the people here, but just generally speaking, that's just not our culture. That's just not our makeup. And you know, I think in order for me to be the best that I can be, I gotta be around people who share that same mindset, and I can discuss with them, pull ideas from them, encourage them, get encouragement from them, and all that stuff. So yeah, yo, that's my thoughts for today. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. Peace out.